It is the grandfather of science fiction philosophy. Stalker arrived in 1979 as one of cinema's most uncompromising visions. But what you watched is only half the story. The film you know was remade from scratch after nearly all its original footage was destroyed. And the poisoned location where it was shot would claim the lives of its director, its star, and multiple crew members. Today, we are uncovering the truths Stalker hid for nearly 50 years, including the shocking first version that was erased, and the tragic cost of creating a masterpiece. Number 1. The lost first version. Andrei Tarkovsky spent an entire year, 12 months, shooting all the outdoor scenes of Stalker on location in Estonia. He had written the screenplay with Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, the authors of the novel Roadside Picnic, and the first version was much closer to the book, more plot, more action, more science fiction adventure. Tarkovsky had the film loaded onto new Kodak 5247 stock, a cutting-edge emulsion the Soviet Union had never used before. When the crew returned to Moscow to develop it, they got devastating news. The entire year of outdoor footage was unusable. The Kodak stock had been improperly processed by Soviet laboratories that did not yet know how to handle the new film. According to production designer Rashid Safiullin, Tarkovsky was so despondent at having to discard an entire year of work that he wanted to abandon the film altogether. He had lost everything. The Soviet film authorities wanted to shut the project down. It was over. Number 2. Tarkovsky's sabotage theory. Tarkovsky never fully accepted that the lab disaster was mere incompetence. According to sound designer Vladimir Sharun, Tarkovsky became convinced that one of his rivals, a well-known Soviet film director, had deliberately sabotaged the production. The theory was this: the high-quality Kodak 5247 stock that Tarkovsky had ordered was stolen. Someone swapped it for inferior film. Tarkovsky unknowingly shot the entire year with degraded stock. Then the Soviet labs processed it incorrectly. Sharun, however, was more skeptical. He attributed the disaster to what he called the usual Russian sloppiness. The labs simply did not know how to develop Kodak film. But in Tarkovsky's mind, his enemies had struck. Whether sabotage or negligence, the result was the same. 1 year of work, thousands of feet of footage, gone forever. Number 3. Georgy Rerberg fired. Georgy Rerberg was the original cinematographer. He had worked with Tarkovsky before, on the film Mirror in 1975. But after the film stock disaster, their relationship was fractured beyond repair. Rerberg was blamed for not catching the problem with the film during production. Tarkovsky, furious and despondent, fired him. Rerberg was removed from the project entirely. Only one shot, a single image, filmed by Rerberg, would survive into the final cut. A dust storm blowing across the Estonian marshes. One shot. That was all that remained of a year of collaboration. Rerberg's name would be remembered in film history, but only as the man whose work was erased. Number 4. Alexander Knyazhinsky saves the reshoot. Tarkovsky hired a new cinematographer, Alexander Knyazhinsky. The pressure was immense. Knyazhinsky had to reshoot nearly the entire film from scratch, under Tarkovsky's notoriously demanding eye. Tarkovsky required dozens of takes for a single shot. He would stand in the cold, on polluted ground, waiting for the light to be exactly right, for the mood to crystallize into what he saw in his mind. Knyazhinsky delivered. The cinematography he created on the reshoot is considered some of the most striking imagery of Tarkovsky's entire career. The fog-shrouded Estonian landscape, the industrial ruins, the polluted water. All of it was captured by Knyazhinsky's camera. But the cost would be paid in blood. Number 5. The character that changed everything. Here is what transformed during the reshoot. The Stalker himself. In the lost first version, the Stalker was cynical. He was closer to the novel's Red Shoeheart, a hardened guide who exploited his clients. A con man playing up the mystery of the zone for profit. When the film had to be remade, Tarkovsky abandoned that vision entirely. The new Stalker became what Tarkovsky called a holy fool, a Christ-like figure, driven by faith, not greed. He was spiritual. He wanted to help people find meaning, even if he could not explain why. The destruction of the first version gave Tarkovsky permission to strip away action and plot. He made something purely metaphysical. The Stalker's rebirth as a spiritual seeker was born from catastrophe. Number 6. The toxic location. The film was shot in Estonia, near the city of Tallinn, at an abandoned power plant downstream from a chemical factory. The location was deliberately chosen for its haunting beauty. Rusted machinery, collapsing buildings, vast industrial wasteland. But there was a price. The river running through the zone was choked with industrial pollutants. The water was poisoned. Crew members waded through it. They breathed the fumes. One crew member recalled that white foam floated down the river. Foam that was in fact horrible poison. Many women on the crew developed severe allergic reactions on their skin and faces. The location that made Stalker visually stunning was toxic. Number 7. Tarkovsky gets sick. Tarkovsky's health began to deteriorate during production. He had kidney disease that would eventually kill him in 1986, just 7 years after filming ended. During the shoot, he was gravely ill but kept working. He pushed through pain and weakness because the film demanded it. Tarkovsky believed suffering was necessary to make art. He would not stop. He would not rest. The zone was eating him alive, and he stayed. Number 8. The cast falls. Actor Anatoly Solzhenitsyn played the writer. He was brilliant, haunted, precise in every frame. After Stalker, Solzhenitsyn died from cancer of the bronchial tube. Alexander Kaidanovsky, who played the Stalker, also died from cancer. Alexander Knyazhinsky, the cinematographer, died from the same illness on his deathbed, speaking about the production. Multiple sources confirm that sound designer Vladimir Sharun became convinced the deaths were connected to the location shooting. The toxic water, the chemical air, the poison seeping into their bodies. Tarkovsky's wife, Larissa, also died from cancer in Paris, and editor Ludmila Faganova died in a fire. A darkness seemed to follow everyone who made Stalker. Number 9. Only one shot survived. As mentioned, Georgi Rurberg shot an entire year. Only one image made it into the final film. A dust storm moving across the Estonian marshes. That single shot is visible in the opening sequences of the zone. Everything else Rurberg captured was burned away, discarded, lost to time. Film historians have speculated endlessly about what the lost first version looked like. Was it more action-driven? More faithful to the novel? More conventionally dramatic? No one will ever know. That version exists only in the memories of those who saw it, and most of them are dead. Number 10. The studio shutdown threat. When the film stock disaster happened, the Soviet authorities wanted to shut the production down. They saw it as a waste of money, a failed project, a loss. Why continue? The film would never be finished. The budget had been nearly exhausted, but Tarkovsky had a solution. He asked to be allowed to make the film as a two-part structure. 2 parts meant 2 sets of deadlines. 2 parts meant additional funding from the Soviet film boards. The board, seeing a way to recoup some of their investment, agreed. Without that negotiation, Stalker would have been abandoned. The 2-part structure that gives Stalker its contemplative rhythm was born not from artistic vision, but from bureaucratic survival. Number 11. Departure from the novel. Arkady and Boris Strugatsky wrote Roadside Picnic in 1971. The novel is filled with alien artifacts, treasures hidden in the zone, and a dangerous world of scavengers hunting for valuable relics. The Stalker in the book is a hardened prospector. The climax involves a golden sphere that actually grants wishes. Tarkovsky threw almost all of that away. He kept 2 words, Stalker and zone. Everything else was stripped to its essence. The room is empty. Nothing is explained. The zone is not an alien artifact, but a metaphysical space where faith and doubt collide. In Tarkovsky's film, the landscape is the true character. The dialogue is philosophical. The pacing is glacial. In remaking Stalker after the disaster, Tarkovsky did not try to salvage the action-adventure film he had started. He created something entirely new. He created a spiritual meditation. The lost first version would have been a very different film. Number 12. 142 shots. Stalker runs 163 minutes. It contains only 142 shots. That means each shot lasts an average of more than 1 minute. Many shots last 4 minutes or longer. Some last 5 minutes. There are no cuts, no rapid montage, no quick transitions. Just long, hypnotic takes of the landscape, the characters' faces, the slow movement through the zone. This pacing would have been influenced by the reshoot. With limited budget and time, Tarkovsky learned to use stillness as narrative. He learned that nothing could replace the power of watching. The audience had to sit, had to observe, had to surrender to time itself. The more you stare, Tarkovsky seemed to say, the more the image reveals. Number 13. The ending. They almost abandoned. At the end of Stalker, the camera pulls back to show the stalker's apartment. His wife sits at a table. His young daughter sits beside her. The wife looks directly at the camera. She speaks about her husband, about faith, about love in a world without hope. And then, in a single frame, barely noticeable, the daughter moves 3 glasses on the table with her mind. Telekinesis, a miracle. In the context of everything, the zone, the room, the failed wishes, this tiny act of a child's psychic power is Tarkovsky's answer. Not explanation, not proof, just faith that something transcendent still exists. The stalker's daughter represents the next generation, born into a broken world, yet capable of impossible things. This ending was only possible after the reshoot. In the lost first version, the film likely ended very differently. Number 14. Goskino's Cold Rejection. When Stalker premiered in 1979, the Soviet film authorities at Goskino did not celebrate it. They said it was not dynamic enough. The shots were too long, the audience would lose interest. It was boring, it was too philosophical, it was not a film, it was a test of patience. The officials seemed baffled by what Tarkovsky had created. They wanted spectacle, action, clear narrative. What Tarkovsky gave them was silence and light. Goskino wanted to bury it. But something unexpected happened. The Soviet people loved it. The film sold 4,300,000 tickets. 4 million people paid to sit in the dark and watch fog and marshes, and the faces of 3 men walking through a strange landscape. Goskino had been wrong. Number 15. Cannes recognition. In 1980, 1 year after its Soviet release, Stalker was shown at the Cannes Film Festival. Western critics understood immediately. This was not a conventional science fiction film. This was cinema as art, cinema as philosophy, cinema as an experience that changed how you perceived reality itself. Stalker won the prize of the ecumenical jury at Cannes. It was recognized as a masterpiece by the international film community. Tarkovsky, still in the Soviet Union, had created his final Soviet masterpiece. He would leave the country a year later, emigrating to the West to escape Soviet censorship. Stalker was his goodbye to his homeland. Number 16. The restoration. In recent years, Mosfilm undertook a complete restoration of Stalker from the original 35mm camera negative. The restoration was a 2K digital transfer of the only negative that survived. The restoration revealed details never before seen. The richness of color in the zone, the clarity of faces, the texture of rust and decay. Watching the restored Stalker is to see Tarkovsky's final vision in its truest form. The sepia-toned dystopia outside the zone now glows with warmth. The colors of the zone sing with life. The restoration is so pristine that it has been accused of removing some of the ambiguity that made Stalker mysterious. But the original footage is there, saved, preserved, brought back from the dead. If you watch Stalker today, remember this. You are watching the ghost of what was almost lost. You are watching a film that killed to be born. And in that darkness, in that sacrifice, there is something holy. Does that film reach into your heart? Does it change you? Let us know in the comments below. Hit subscribe, because every week, we uncover the secrets Hollywood buried in the films you thought you knew.